Florida. Perspective.
My fault.
Welcome to BHM Minutes. Today we're back at it again with another video, and today we shall overcome Wednesdays. My name is Vori, and I'm be joined with today it's Peter, Braylon. Today our topic is about non-violence protesting, and it's serious towards African Americans.
Nonviolent protests are collective actions where individuals come together to express their support for a particular cause or protest against something affecting them. Forms of nonviolent protests range from economic boycotts to marches or rallies that often involve speeches, chants, songs, or other forms of public expression to raise awareness and put pressure on elected officials and community leaders to bring about change. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described, we adopt the means of nonviolence because our end is a community at peace with itself. We would try to persuade with our words, but if our words fail, we would try to persuade with our acts.
One of the first significant civil rights protests was the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955. It was triggered by Rosa Parks' refusal to give up her seat to a white person, marking a powerful stand against racial segregation in public transportation. The boycott's electiveness struck a huge blow to segregationist policy, prompting a Supreme Court's decision in 1956 finding segregation on public buses unconstitutional. The Montgomery bus boycott not only sparked the civil rights movement, but also highlighted the power of nonviolent protesting's collective action in overcoming entrenched racial inequality. It served as a model for a symbol of fortitude and tenacity in the fight for equality and justice.
The threat of a march on Washington brought important federal protections for African Americans working in their war effort. The 1963 March on Washington demanded an end to segregation, fair wages, and economic justice, voting rights, education, and long overdue civil rights protections. Over 250,000 people gathered peacefully at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. to hear speeches and participate in the call for racial equality and justice. The highlight of the event was Martin Luther King Jr.'s iconic I Have a Dream speech, in which he articulated his vision for a future where people will be judged by the content of the character rather than the color of their skin.
Our last example was the Chicago Freedom Movement. Despite facing resistance from local government officials and encountering violent opposition from some segments of the white population, the Chicago Freedom Movement succeeded in drawing attention to racial disparities in Houston and northern cities and mobilizing support for civil rights reforms in the city. While it did not achieve all of its goals immediately, the movement laid the groundwork for subsequent activism and legislative efforts to combat racial discrimination and promote fair housing in Chicago and beyond.
So why is understanding nonviolent protests important? Protests are crucial for expressing dissent and mobilizing support for social, political, and environmental causes. They serve as a platform for raising awareness about pressing issues and galvanizing collective action. By bringing people together in public spaces, they demonstrate the strength of community, solidarity, and advocate for meaningful change.
Finally, we thought it was appropriate to close with Dr. King's words. Now let us begin. Now let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for a new world.
So now we got some discussion questions. What are some ways you can think protesting can be positive against one perspective?
What are examples of modern nonviolent protest movements? And lastly, if Westerville North had a protest right now that you sided with, would you be brave enough to join the protest?